All right, New York. Is the Jets' job the best or worst job for a head coach to take? There are currently 6 head coaching jobs available now that Mike McCarthy is leaving Dallas, as you guys know. So here's our NFL reporter for the Post, Ryan Dunleavy, to rank these jobs from worst to first. RD, what's going on, my man? How you feeling this morning?
What's up, Brandon? Just got off the Peloton. It's a new year.
New year, new me. New head coach for the Jets is what it's going to be 2025 season opener. But before we get into this list, I need to know the criteria you use to rank these jobs because I don't want people in the comments like, what did you use to rank these jobs? You know how people are all on
I
social media.
do. I do. So I called a couple people that, aren't up for these jobs per se, but have been up for jobs in the past. And I said, what's important? And the four things that came up were the quarterback situation, the support level of ownership, the talent and draft capital. So basically your non-quarterback assets, and how easy is your path to success? Do you play in a brutal division or a brutal conference where you could be a good team and still come in last place? So those are
Okay.
the four categories.
All right. And now let's go from worst to first. 6 through 3. The floor is yours, my man.
6 through 3. Without a doubt, I think the worst job is the Raiders' job. I don't know. I think I ranked them second to last or last in all four of those categories compared to the other five teams. Essentially, they have no quarterback, no path to a quarterback. Ownership doesn't spend a lot of money and has a quick trigger, as we've seen. The talent is pretty barren, and they play in the NFL's hardest division, where the other three teams just went to the playoffs in the AFC West. So basically, their sell is come work for Tom Brady. He's very involved right now. Uh, and then I had two tied for fourth. I had the Jets and the Bears tied for fourth. And really, the Bears' selling point is you get to work with last year's number one overall pick, Caleb Williams, who had a much better rookie quarterback season than people give him credit for. Because Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels were like historically good, people overlook the fact that Caleb Williams was pretty good compared to rookie expectations. And then the Jets roster is basically the opposite. It's like we don't know what we're doing at quarterback, but we have a lot of really good young players, and it's not you could come in second in the AFC East pretty quickly. It's the Bills divisional lose, and then it's wide open. So really, the big thing with both jobs is ownership. The McCaskies are stable. They've been in with the Bears forever, but they make a lot of wrong decisions. And then, as we've learned this year through various reports, Woody Johnson's interference level with the Jets and his desire to be involved in football decisions. I actually have that ranked to the last among all the ownership of the 6 jobs.
Yeah, when we talk about the Raiders, 4 head coaches in the last 6 years, and I think it's going to rub a lot of people the wrong way, both coaches and players, the way they let Antonio Pierce go after 1 year without getting him any sort of weapons, or I mean, other than Brock Bowers, but a quarterback. As for the Jets job, man, you talk about that core young group. If you could keep them happy, you could keep them together. You bring in a coach that can kind of reset that culture. I think you've got the pieces are there for the Jets to make a run next season. All right, let's go 3 through 1. I said 6 through 3 the last time, but 3 through 1. Who are your last three in terms of the ranking for these head coaching jobs that are still
This
open?
one surprised me how high I put it on the list because I think the roster stinks. And it's the Saints. I have them
Same.
third. I don't like the quarterback situation, and I don't like the roster overall. And they don't have a high draft pick, so I don't love their draft assets. But I like the other two things a lot. I like their ownership. I gave them the best ownership situation of the 6. People in New Orleans, past and present, have talked about the Bensons being supportive from afar. They don't meddle. They offer support, they offer patience. So I think that's a good situation ownership wise. And the division's not very good, right? The Bucks win it every year at like 9-8. Todd Bowles, I think, is kind of holding the Bucks back at this point. The Falcons are going to have to take their medicine for the wasted Kirk Cousins contract. So I don't think it's crazy that a few smart moves by the Saints could get them into competing at the top of the NFC South. Number 2, I had the Jaguars, which is exactly the opposite of number 1, which is interesting. I mean, the Jaguars is London's team, basically. It's a team that doesn't get hardly any attention in America, but they have a quarterback who I think most people believe in still, even though he hasn't lived up to his potential, and Trevor Lawrence. They have a good roster at positional value places, like they have a left tackle, a receiver, a number one corner, a couple edge rushers. They have good building blocks that are homegrown at important positions. And again, the AFC South stinks. Like the Texans went from worst to first a couple years ago. There's no reason the Jaguars couldn't do the same. And then number one is the total opposite. If the Jaguars are the team no one talks about, number one is the team everybody talks about. It's the Cowboys. And what's ironic, Brandon, is 2 days ago, I would have had the Patriots job number one on this list. That got filled, and the Jaguars bumped up to number one for less than 24 hours because then the Cowboys job opened and they became number one. We can talk about the Cowboys job as much as you want, but obviously they have a franchise quarterback who's only 31 years old. They have stars, CeeDee Lamb, Micah Parsons, Trayvon Diggs. It's a little bit of a top-heavy roster, but it's a team with a lot of high level talent, a young quarterback who was second in the MVP 2 years ago, and ownership. As much as Jerry Jones takes heat, he does create headaches for his coaches, but he's not a quick trigger fire guy like he was in the 90s. He's basically let Jason Garrett and Mike McCarthy's contracts run out just so that he didn't have to fire them, which is, which is something coaches appreciate, not getting humiliated like that.
That Cowboys job, it's like that franchise is a reality TV show,
Yeah.
disguised as a pro football organization. And because of that, it brings me to my next question. Jerry had talks with Coach Prime, Deion. If there is someone to take that job, this one makes sense. So what are your thoughts on Deion possibly being a candidate for the Cowboys job? Do you think it makes sense?
I would think it makes sense any year but this year. Like I almost wish this happened last year, and I would have said, yeah, put him in the books. He's the coach. I just don't understand how he's going to be the Cowboys coach, and he's going to watch his son this year get drafted by somebody else. Maybe the division rival Giants, who he has to face twice a year. He has to torment his son. That does not sound like something
That's good TV, though. That's good TV if you think about it.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like. Yeah, it sounds like he would want to coach his son. He's coached his son his whole life. So, and the Cowboys would take on something like a $100 million dead cap hit to move on from Dak Prescott to get to Shador Sanders. So I don't know. It sounds great most years. This year, I don't necessarily see it. I would think Deion would probably be more likely to wait to see where his son ends up and then, be breathing down that coach's neck next year.
All right, RD, we appreciate the list. You guys can go check that out at NewYorkPost.com/sports. Ryan Dunleavy, thanks for your time, man.
Thanks, Brandon.